birth certificate reads like an invite to times and truths entirely foreign. Mother's place of birth, Wałbrzych, Poland. Father's place of birth, Cairo, Egypt. Two Jews of distinctly dissimilar cultures, a 25-year age gap between them. Meet in Israel, move to States, marry in Temple, Central Park adjacent. So who is this child, reared in privilege, frequently downplayed, schooled on pluralism from inside a bubble? This child, whose maternal grandparents survived genocide in that Poland, whose paternal great-grandfather founded a synagogue in that Egypt. This child, whose makers became white when and because their host country deemed it convenient, and along came all the conditioning. This child, who is he certified to be? Be who you are, be who you must, but who is that? Who am I? Be the intersection of your ancestry and your own grandchildren, but who are they? Who am I? Blood-red seeds, a note on naming. In Jewish folklore, pomegranates play divinity's portal. Their purported 613 seeds said to represent the number of religious deeds all observant Jews are told to hold true. These bittersweet bulbs are at the same time seen as symbols of fertility, firmly packed in trails assailing each eater to recall the future's commandment: be fruitful, multiply. In Hebrew, a language so holy it was almost solely spoken in prayer, until the making of modern Israel, and a national narrative shaped of fabricated nostalgia deemed it our people's real tongue. The word for pomegranate, rimon, the same as that for grenade. Pa 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 pop pop pops. One of the few times I've seen my pops cry was the evening he heard Yitzhak Rabin die. Ex-general slain by a countryman claiming leaders slipped too lenient in talk of lives and land. Cold rain drummed long-lost rhythms on our windows. A stubborn fog blinded Manhattan. We waited solemn for my mom to make it home from work, stared at pixel squares together until confirmation came, and I caught a tear crease my dad's drooping cheek. I couldn't stand to see his shell wilt in that nauseous light, so I slid off the couch, stumbled to my bedroom, styled then in sugar bright bar mitzvah party favors, and knowing next to nothing of Israel or Palestine, began sobbing too, convinced it was my due. Anyone who meant this much to my elders must hold the same hero status to me. I recall reasoning as a widespread flood warning went into effect, and a dusty shofar stared at me, mute. Seven winters, half as many prime ministers passed, and I got antsy for answers. I began with the then current, now comatose commander. What God had you, Ariel Sharon? Whitewashed white man, hell-bent on rewriting brown land's history with high-tech tanks, trigger-trained teens. What God had you? Really that of the Jews? Couldn't have been the nameless savior your own ancestors prayed to, who said, love the stranger as you would your own. Though, who were your people, Ariel Sharon? Did you even love them? How could you have when you directed the demolition that stirred fever further in the furnace of families, displaced, disgraced, then blamed suicide bombers for unfurling inferno, said nothing of the nightmare designed to deal despair, history that hastened hate you dared condemn, The crying clamp your Uncle Sam manicured talons tightened by the day. Hungry, hawk, your so-called fanatics were not fostered in a vacuum. You vowed violence to avenge civilians caught unsuspecting, forewent 50-plus years of context, as befits a colonizer. Cloaked in the malleable rhetoric of resistance, you misappropriated words like struggle and justice to perpetuate the pain of a victimhood past. What a God, what God. My mother says she met you in an adolescent army, circa 6-day war. You were serving together. A handsome paratrooper, her description to a stranger, who struck up conversation, having overheard an accent unmistakable. Incidentally, my father also claims crossing paths at a Passover Seder several years back. Says you were soft-spoken, humorous, polite. Hardly the heartless criminal we ignorant anarchists portray in propaganda kits. A trustworthy middle line remains tough to fathom as we come up on a quarter century since Sabra and Shatila, massacres you masterminded and justified just as you did Palestine's well-planned paralysis. On the day that particular travesty turned 20, I searched the empire's papers high and low for mere mention of calamity's anniversary. But a case of collective amnesia seems to have spread across our free press. I found instead lengthy op-eds scribbled by self-proclaimed liberal journalists asserting the need for a continued siege of Arafat's quarters, quintessential escape route. Until we expel the leader, there's no place for peace with his people. And now even that excuse has expired. But who were your people? Ariel Sharon? Western experts paid to dictate dominant discourse, rabbis wearing rifles under stolen sun, my parents, my family, communities who've chosen assimilation in place of asymmetry, European power principles at the cost of tradition, once rooted in critical reflection. What God have you, my people? We are Jews. Ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da da, ya da da, ya da 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 da, ya da na da 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 da, ya da da.